Gentlemen, welcome back to Mids from the middle of the Midwest. Are we in the middle of a civil war here in the Midwest? The Midwest I see outside my window is really just a cloudy day. But we talk about sex, violence, and religion here at Mids. It's our job to cover the FUD when it comes to socio-political issues if they relate to our favorite topics, hypergamy and the male sex drive. So as literally everyone predicted, criminal, political, and social violence continue to ratchet up. And a lot of us, myself included, are concerned about the prospect of a civil war. Now, it's my prediction for those of you who are concerned about the possibility of a civil war, I predict you will be underwhelmed, especially if you compare it to the first Civil War. Let's get started. The conditions that were in play during our first Civil War seem very strange to the world we live in today. That war was fought between cleanly divided states using armies that fought with analog weapons. They were fighting for distinct ideologies and distinct economic systems. Also, as regards to Civil War I, all the participants were men. Women did not participate in war or politics. So fast forward to 2025, not only do women participate, they seem to be the most prominent figures on at least one side of this existential battle happening in America. Welcome to your hypergamous civil war. This civil war will be fought the way women fight: gossip, name calling, shaming, social bullying, in shitified from start to finish. The left's religion is the woke ideology, wokeism, whatever you want to call it, in true feminine fashion. No one can really say exactly what woke is. The most common name for it, obviously, has been justice. It started as the social justice warrior. But is there like a precise definition? I'm glad you asked. Here at MIDS, the answer to all your questions starts with hypergamy. Let's articulate the foundation of the woke ideology as we see it here at MIDS. The first component of the woke ideology is the impotent rage of female jealousy, which is at an all-time high thanks to social media. Women, similar to weak men, express rage indirectly. They have to sublimate and sanitize its dark realities. So they call it justice. If you ask, they'll say it's justice for a specific victim or group of victims. And that may be somebody who has truly, genuinely suffered from some terrible calamity or actual injustice. At its best, this is truly fighting for justice. At its worst, it is a corrupt subversion of a distinctly Judeo-Christian concept: concern for innocent victims. This is the perfect modern cover for impotent rage. If you grill women on this, they may even turn the shaming tactic on you and call you a creep or an incel for just asking. Our culture has gotten a lot smarter in the last 10 years when it comes to dynamics like this. Fewer and fewer men fall for this female strategy, but somebody does. Who is buying it when women dress up their most aggressive and malevolent behavior as justice? This brings us to the second ingredient of the woke ideology: simpotent rage. I know, good one, good one. Simpotent, so clever, Nixon. There is no morality to being an alpha or a beta. Those are terms that basically denote who women are more sexually interested in. But there's always morality at the edges of alpha and beta behaviors, as well as anything related to sex. The problem is, at its worst, the impotent rage of the sexually frustrated beta male, the simp, is one of the most malevolent forces in the universe. If you think of like the greedy machinations of these shadowy corporate billionaires, or the sexual resentment of powerful but extremely cucked men in our society, or the isolated violence of the lone gunman, these are all variations of metastasized beta male anger, envy, and resentment. Weak, low status men are extremely prone to envy and resentment of alpha males and the women they fuck. But because they're motivated by sexual strategy, they also tend to worship these women and use things like simping or political affinity to win these women's approval. Resentful women don't find them attractive. Often they despise these guys. I mean, they fucking can't stand them. They think they're creeps, but at times they may find them useful, or quite a few of them are wolves in sheep's clothing. So now you have this uneasy, fatally weak alliance at the heart of woke ideology. Envious men accommodating jealous women because they are deluded into believing that it'll get them sex. It's sexual strategy. So neither one of them is fully conscious of of this dynamic. I'm convinced because, by the way, I spent several years of my life laboring under the same delusion. Both of these groups tend to be atheist. Thus, they confuse this dynamic for an actual religion, especially men. Thanks to the red pill, at least the theory and practice behind it, men are recognizing this dynamic more and more and rejecting it. In fairness to men, they are not rejecting justice. In fact, many of them care passionately about justice. They're not even rejecting on paper what woke stands for. What they're rejecting is bad sexual strategy. There's a trick with this, though. For those who don't follow this intersection closely enough, I'll take you back to a phrase that became popular in the 20th century. I think it's probably always been popular and it always sort of rings true to an extent. All politics is local. On top of that, all politics is sexual. Every single sexual strategy has a political manifestation. Rejecting wokeism or embracing it are both examples of that. So, this is why I say that we're more unified than at any time since World War II, because all men are drifting away from the woke ideology to the degree they recognize it as a flawed sexual strategy. This doesn't mean that civil war is going to be averted, but the only men willing to fight for the woke ideology are going to be the folks who profit from it, as well as the tragically clueless who still don't understand ruthless hypergamy. So if we look over at the political right, it's hard to say exactly what they're fighting for. They obviously stand for traditional values and they, by nature, defend American values, both of which ruthless hypergamy has attacked for decades. So a lot of them are fighting for the justice they see for those values. Plenty of these guys would lay their lives on the line just for Donald Trump. They are that loyal to him. And there are plenty who are just sick of being abused by political correctness, aggressiveness, and malevolence masking itself behind justice, the woke ideology. There's an interesting lesson in the dynamic between hypergamy and the male sex drive and the act of aggression itself. Whether it's a political assassination or some other indirect and cowardly means, that is feminine, that is the feminized beta male impulse to go after somebody when they are defenseless because you don't feel like you can beat them in a fair fight. This is still warfare and it can still be effective, but it definitely reflects a beta as opposed to an alpha aggressive mindset to the act of war. If you see these types of actions, gossiping, shaming, bullying, doxing, unfortunately and tragically, assassination attempts, this will remain a cold civil war. My sense for a while is that the first act of this quote unquote civil war was the 2020 COVID riots. That is what this war would look like if it remains this dynamic between the woke as presently constituted, which is simps and jealous women, and I guess regular guys on the other side. The big question of whether this goes from a cold civil war to a hot civil war hinges on one thing: whether the woke can find someone to do actual fighting for them. Conventionally male warfare, the kind that's only carried out by strong men. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and final thought. On the next segment, we'll go into some speculation on the logistics of how a hot civil war might be fought. So hot, I'm telling you, I'm sweating right here. Have you noticed? The thing about this notion of a hot civil war, which would be fought literally by armies going to battle, if you peel back that onion and you take a look at how you could persuade a military force to fight on behalf of the woke, that alone is an interesting lesson in hypergamy. And we'll get to it next time. Take care.